Hello. Hello, everybody. Oh my gosh. We got we got hundreds of people really fast. Hello. Welcome, everybody. It's so nice to see you. I'm so excited to have you all here, and I see that you're already in the chat. That's amazing. Thank you for greeting me. That's so kind. Here's your icebreaker. If you've been in a workshop with me, you already know what's coming because I'm obsessed with food. And so I always like to ask, what is the best thing you consumed in the last 48 hours? And that's pretty broad. It could be like something you ate, it could be something you drank or listened to or watched, but tell me so that I can covet it in the chat. Oh my gosh, shrimp boil. That's amazing. I don't think I've seen that answer come in the chat before. A donut with pink frosting and white sprinkles. That's one of my favorite donuts, especially if it's like still vanilla flavored. I love just like appreciating the craft. Oh my gosh, your daughter's a chef. Dino. Oh, okay. You said Dino barbecue. My brain read that as Dino nuggets, Walter, and I was intrigued and excited. No shame in anyone's Dino nugget game. Ooh, chocolate. Oh, tofu chocolate mousse. I just made that yesterday. I love the texture. It's so pleasing. We love a good Dino nuggets. Walter, it's your wife's favorite food. That's amazing. It's my partner's favorite too. I like to hide them in the house when I'm gonna like be on a trip. Not like anywhere in the house, but in the freezer. Oh my gosh, cookie dough. Yes, Eric, I also would like to know what the heck Dino barbecue is. That sounds amazing. Is it like a business? Inquiring minds want to know. Keep it coming in the chat. I'm not going to keep us here on this screen because you're all here to build and learn. So let's dive into some housekeeping, but feel free to keep it coming in the chat lively. We've had another 100 people join since the start. So if you're not sure what we're talking about in the chat, it is what is the best thing you consumed in the last 48 hours? Make me jealous. Right now, I'm really craving a strawberry milkshake. Alas, we're doing a webinar right now. Now, I'm going to kick us off with some housekeeping. Who am I? Why am I talking to you? That's the first housekeeping. I showed it on the previous slide. I'm Emily Mabie. I'm a senior AI automation engineer at Zapier. And today I'm building with you, but if you're not here with me live, it's because you're watching it recorded. That's right, the session is recorded. Now, we've already got almost 400 people here. I'm deputizing all of you. If somebody joins late and asks if this is being recorded, please be very polite to them and nice because we want them to feel good, but feel free to just answer them in the chat if you see it. It is being recorded. You will get the recording afterwards as soon as it processes, likely tomorrow morning in your inbox. If you get stuck at any point when we're building, you feel like something wasn't clear, you're working on a different app than I am, you'll get to use Copilot. I'll show you where it is while we're building. It is like your best friend. It will get you unblocked and it can see what you're building. So you can chat with it just like you and I were troubleshooting one-on-one. And the last thing that I will share is you don't have to have any previous experience to do this workshop, okay? You will need a free trial account for when we put our hands on our keyboards and start building. Or if you're not ready to build, you can watch. It's most valuable if you build it with us. And Bryce just dropped a link for you to sign up for your free Zapier trial so you can build. Now, I'm seeing in the chat that we've got friends who I dearly miss. We've got folks saying check your spam folders. These are super helpful tips. Welcome to all of you who are also sharing. You are newbies and those tasks are piling up. We're going to dive into the building here in just a minute, but I want to give a little bit more housekeeping, okay? Something that people have shared before when I've been presenting is, Emily, your face is too big. I want to see the slides better. Hey, we've all been there. The good news is you are in control of how big or small I show up and how big or small my slides show up. You can adjust the size by grabbing the gray bar on the screen. I show it here in the demo and dragging it, and that will allow you to adjust the size of what you're seeing on the screen. And then also, if questions bubble up for you while we're building, you have a great question about Zapier, AI automation, something related to those, there is a questions button on my screen. It is in the lower right-hand corner, and you can click it and write your question there. It'll get saved for the Q&A time at the end, and other people can upvote them if they really want to get that question answered too. Okay? Now, we are in this webinar together, this workshop, but oh my gosh, Zapier is hosting almost 2 events every week. They're usually demo-driven, show and tell sessions where you're going to actually see real workflows getting built live, and you can hear from leaders like NerdWallet, Anthropic, or Miro about how they're actually using AI and automation. And we also run what you're doing right now, hands-on build-along workshops where you're not just watching, it's not sit and get, you're going to build. You'll co-create use cases with me or with Bryce on Zapier agents or Zaps or Zapier MCP, and you'll use tools like Cursor Code or Codex or Claude. And when you want inspiration from operators in the field, or when you want to get your hands on your keyboard and ship something in less than an hour, there's something here for you and your team. Look at all these options. Go ahead and grab a spot at our upcoming sessions by using the QR code or clicking the link that Bryce just shared on the screen. Thank you, Bryce. If you're like me and QR codes are meaningless to you, go ahead and click that link. And now we're going to dive in. What are we doing today? Well, we're going to start by doing a super quick intro to each other. And then as soon as possible, we're going to get our hands on our keyboards and start building. We're going to have some opportunities to do peer learning along the way where you all share ideas and make the build even better. And at the end, we'll do some Q&A. But to kick it off, I want to know who you are. We're all spending time together. There's almost 6,000 of us. Who are you? I just told you about me. What is your role? And what do you want to be doing with AI? Put it in the chat, please. This is really important to me. I want to know, like, what is your hope for AI? And you can also share, like, what you're nervous about or what you're stuck on. I put an example on the screen that said, like, hey, I'm a marketer. I want to use AI to stop managing, like, all of these content calendars manually, but I'm so nervous about losing predictability. Okay. We all have something we're hoping for, a place that we're starting, and what we're nervous about. I want to read them. Amazing. Awesome. Okay. Competitive marketer looking to automate repetitive content tasks. Amazing. CEO of a small business. Shout out to the small business folks. Needs to implement this, but not that tech savvy of a team. Totally fair. Great news for you here on what we're going to be using today. With AI, I want to minimize work for my team that's not customer facing. Oh my gosh. Shout out here. I'm a people person, right? I'm from the HR world. And my whole goal is to use AI to maximize the people-to-people connection time and let robots do what robots are best at. So love that. Want to use it to reduce friction for other people. What a beautiful inspiration. Oh my gosh, these are so good. I can't wait to read the rest later when you're not all hoping that I'll teach you something. This is amazing. Oh my gosh, new to Zapier and AI, and your name is Emily. Special shout out to you. We're name twins. So we've got all of this like ideation and trepidation, right? There's stuff we want out of it. There's stuff we're nervous about. Let's dive into what we're doing today. Keep it coming in the chat. If you've done a workshop with me before, you've seen this slide, okay? And I'm going to touch on it again because it's that important. What is AI automation? What the heck are we going to be doing? I'm willing to bet out of the almost 500 people who are here with us, almost all of you have talked to ChatGPT or Claude, okay? If you have ever talked to ChatGPT, it's sort of like talking to Google Maps. You open it up, you say, I want to get to the theater. It tells you how to get to the theater, and you're done. You follow those directions, you do all the work. It's a one-off interaction with a really smart assistant. So Google Maps, sort of like ChatGPT. What we're going to be doing today is building an AI automation. And working with AI automations is more like a self-driving car, like a Waymo. Instead of opening a map and saying, I want to get to the theater, and then you have to do all the work, you're opening a map saying, I want to get to the theater, and then AI is taking you there. It's doing the work, it's transporting you. So when we build AI automations like Zapier agents or using Zapier MCP, or today building a workflow with some AI in select places, AI is actually doing work towards our predefined goal. And we have this whole spectrum of AI automation. On the left, we've got, you can see a workflow with no AI inside it at all, no purple. On the left, where it's orange and it says determinism. And those are workflows that run exactly the same way every single time. I get an email. I want that email logged in a spreadsheet. I want you to send me a text that it's done. That will run the same way every single time. But if we add in a little bit of AI, we get nudged a little closer to the right. We get an AI workflow. We're choosing a specific spot where AI shows up, and AI touches a little bit of the process. So in this case of the example I just gave, when I get an email, AI categorizes and analyzes it, logs it in a spreadsheet, and sends me a text. So just a little bit of AI. And we can keep moving across the spectrum towards inference by building AI agents, which if you've joined me before, you know most of my workshops are on that, or whole agentic workflows and systems. But today we are going to be focusing a little bit further on the left side of the spectrum, because the purpose of today's talk is about AI without losing any of our predictability. Now, why are we doing that when you all know as well as I do that AI agents and MCP are so hyped right now, right? They're all over the internet. Why on earth are we focusing on predictable workflow building and AI? Great question, voice in my head. So each of these tools, workflows, which we call Zaps, agents, MCP, have different strengths and can do different things. When we use them together and we understand the appropriate place for each of them to show up, we can get the best of all of them. So we can get the reliability and predictability of a workflow with AI. We can get the flexibility of agents. We can get the power of MCP if we know when each one is the right choice to reach for. So today, because we're focused on using AI without losing predictability, we're going to focus on using it in a Zap. So predictable, standard actions that give us total control over where AI shows up. AI is not picking where it shows up in our tools, we are picking. And we're going to do that using something called AI by Zapier. We'll build this together, but it allows us to harness the power of large language models like OpenAI's or Anthropic's or Gemini from Google without our own API key if we want, although we can use your enterprise level or your personal API key. And we're going to use it right inside of a workflow. So today we are living firmly here in the spectrum. We're not all the way to the left. We're going to have a little AI, but we're controlling where it shows up. And before we dive into building, which we're going to do in about 30 seconds, I'm going to show you an example. This is a workflow I use every single day. This is a Zap that runs every day, dozens of times a day, that has an AI step in it, so you can see what we're about to kind of build. Well, our use case will be different. In Slack, if somebody asks me to do something, all I have to do is react to a message with to do, and this automation runs. It wakes up, it checks my Google Calendar to see when I'm busy and when I'm free. Then it ingests the entire thread of Slack messages so it understands the context. AI takes all that information, the original reaction, my calendar information, the full thread. It analyzes what I'm being asked to do and when I'm available. And then that information is used to create a calendar event. So I have time to work on it and shoots me a DM saying, hey, I booked you time tomorrow to work on that ask. So this is sort of the flavor of AI automation we're going to build today. And because we've had about 100 people join since I kicked us off today, I'm going to give you one reminder before we open Zapier and build. If you get stuck, there is something called Copilot that I want you to lean on, because I will not be able to troubleshoot one-on-one with you, right? We're ranging in on half 1,000 people. So if 10 people get stuck, I'm not going to be able to help you because 490 people are still going to be working. So I want you to treat Copilot as your assistant today. You can chat with it when you're building. You can ask it to unblock you, and it can see your work. Okay, I'll show it to you while we're building too, but here's a quick picture of where you can find it while we're building today. Now, let's go ahead and build. That's enough talking. Oof. Let's jump into the product and start building our Zap with AI inside of it. If you've got 2 monitors that you're working on, now is a great time to set up one window where you can see this video stream and build along with me, and then the other window where you'll actually be doing your building. If you only have one screen, that's totally fine. I'm just going to be building on one screen today. And then I would recommend doing it side by side so you're not clicking back and forth. And the problem we are going to be solving with our Zap is, here at Zapier, I don't know about you, but we are a Slack shop. I am in Slack all day. You might be in Teams, same kind of thought process applies. We're not an email business. So when a really important email comes in, there is a huge risk that I will not see it, and there will be a delay in me acting on it. So what we're going to build today is a quick quality of life Zap that helps raise those emergency level emails to us in our native environment. More importantly, it teaches us about how to build with AI in a predictable way. So let's head on over to Zapier. I'm right here on the homepage, Zapier.com. That's where I am. I would like you to join me there because we are going to build. We're going to get our hands on our keyboards building. So make sure you're with me on Zapier's homepage. And the first thing we're going to do, we're going to click the big orange button in the upper left-hand corner. The big orange button that says Create. And you'll see there are a lot of Zapier products to choose from here. Today we are using Zaps. Those are our automated workflows. So I'm going to click Zap. And that opens this blank Zap. And I got to tell you, at the top, there's Copilot, super cool. I could just type or voice message in there and say, hey, I want to build, a system to help escalate emergency emails into Slack, and it would build it. That is so cool. But the bad news for you is you're building with me, and I'm not going to let you do that because I want you to deeply understand all the pieces of what you build before we use Copilot. That being said, I mentioned earlier, if you get stuck, you can ask Copilot. Down in the left-hand corner, there's a little button. I'm highlighting it with my mouse. If I click it, Copilot opens and I can ask it questions if I'm stuck, but I'm not going to use it right now. Right now, I'm going to ask you to focus right here with me on the 2 pieces that you see on your screen. The first one is your trigger. That's the event that starts your Zap. I like to think of it as waking up your Zap so it starts working, waking up your workflow. If you haven't signed up for your free trial to build with me, Bryce just wonderfully shared the link again. Thank you, Bryce. For our trigger today, if we think about our use case, right? I shared our use cases. When we get those high level, those urgent emails, we want to make sure they're escalated to us. So my trigger, when I think about my when then statement, when blank happens, then blank should happen. Well, my trigger is when I get an email. Then, if it's an emergency, flag it to me. So I'm going to find my email as my trigger. I use Gmail, So that's what I'm going to use right here, Gmail. If you use a different provider, you can search for it. In the search bar, we've got over 8,000 apps. It's likely that it will pop up, but I happen to use Gmail. So for my trigger, my app is Gmail. And when I look at all the ways to wake up this workflow, new attachment, new conversation, there it is, new email. I want this workflow to wake up and start whenever a new email comes in. So I'll choose new email as my trigger event. And the last field asks which email account. Like, Emily, okay, great, but where? And my email account is Emily Mabie at Zapier. You can see that when I clicked on account, it showed up right here. If you do not see your email because you've never set up a Zapier automation with it, that's just fine. You'll click the big purple connect a new account button, and it will take you about 20 seconds to connect. So either find your email or connect your email account if you've never used it before. And then once you've got the app set as Gmail, the event as new email, and the account set as yours, you can hit the continue button. And the last thing we have to do is pick which emails should wake up our automation. And we're going to choose inbox. So any email that hits our inbox is going to wake up the automation. When I hit continue, it says, in order to make sure this is working, we need to test it. So I'll click the big purple test button. And I noticed that real emails from my inbox are in the test records. If you hit test and you get an error, often that is just because you haven't gotten any emails in the last few hours. So the Zap isn't able to go listen for any to test on. So if you hit an error right here, go send yourself a quick email about something. Could be about anything. Just a line in there is fine. And then you'll be able to see your emails here in the test records. So far, we set it up with the app of Gmail, the trigger of new email, and our own account. We configured it to listen for new emails in our inbox. And when I hit test, I see these test records being pulled in. Here's an email in my inbox. It is working. All right. Now, believe it or not, we're halfway done with building an automation because an automation is just a trigger and an action. We just finished the trigger. So what we're going to do next is the action. We're going to set up the action. And I mentioned a few minutes ago a when then statement. When blank happens, then blank happens. When I get a new email, then if it's an emergency, escalate it to me in Slack. So my then action, if I hit continue, is the next thing I have to set up. And just so that we've got the visual here, that's this second box. Shout out to the folks in the chat, by the way, who are being very nice, reminding folks that this is being recorded. It is being recorded. Now, when my email comes in, if it's an emergency, then escalate it to me in Slack. What I'd like to do is, I'd like to set up an AI by Zapier step to help me figure out if an email is an emergency. Because I don't know about you, but I get a ton of emails that do not need to be a Slack message to me. That is going to be noisy. So I'm going to choose AI by Zapier. If I click AI by Zapier, I'm going to click out of there for a second. It'll show up right here after the email. So when a new email comes in, then AI will help me figure out if it's an emergency. Should it be escalated to me? And AI by Zapier has a bunch of really cool stuff inside that I'm going to show you now. The first thing is it lets me pick any model I want from this dropdown. I can use an Anthropic AI model, or a Google one, Amazon Bedrock, Azure OpenAI. I'm going to just use the one that's baked in, GPT-4o Mini, because I've tested it before and I know it does this job well. And I'm going to use the Zapier provided credentials where I don't have to go put my authorization in. But you can see here, I could hook up my like enterprise authorization for one of these AI services. But I'm just going to use Zapier's because then there's nothing for me to set up right now. Just know in the back of your mind later, if you wanted to hook it up to your actual auth, you could do that. This just lets me use it for free. It'll use Zapier's actions instead of tokens from my account. Now, the first box up here is input fields. This is what we want to put into the AI step for it to know about from our trigger or from any steps before this in the workflow. And there's something I'm thinking I want my AI to have, okay? I think I want it to have the title of the email, and I think I want it to have the body of the email, because if it has both of those, it will be able to figure out if something is an emergency. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to give it in an input field the title of the email. I'll call this title of the email. I know you're surprised. What a creative title. And then it's asking, cool, what value from your workflow is going to be mapped here? And I'm going to click the little plus sign. And I'm just going to grab the subject of that email that came in earlier. Subject. Boop. Title of the email is this. And I'm going to hit save. And I'll see it show up in the input fields. All right, it's got the title of the email. Now I want to give it the body of the email, so it knows like, what is this person writing to me? So I'll click add field again. And this time I'm going to write body of the email. And the body of the email. When I click the little plus sign, I can see all of the data that comes in from step 1 in my automation, and I can just pick the body. Now, I mentioned that when we were looking at the spectrum of AI, one of the reasons that we're focusing on AI inside of a Zap or a workflow is we have control over what data AI is seeing and where it's interacting with data in our workflow. This is part of the magic of using an AI by Zapier step. I'm going to save this. Let's say for some reason, could be any reason, I don't want AI to have access to the actual email address that sent me this message for whatever reason. Maybe I have an agreement with a partner that I will never have their contact information processed by AI. I'll just leave it out of the input fields. So the title and the body might come through, but I don't have to add in the sender. Whereas if I were processing this information with an agent, it's going to get access to all of that information. Sometimes that's the right choice. Sometimes we want the flexibility of an agent. But today, we are focusing on predictability and having control over what AI is seeing. So that's why I'm pointing this out to you. Now, we're going to skip knowledge sources. I don't need it right now, but just know that like if we had, a framework for determining when an email is urgent or not, we could add in a knowledge source. We're not going to use that today. The last thing we need to set up for ourselves right now is the prompt. And I've got great news for you. If you don't feel like a really strong AI prompter, you don't have to be. With Zapier's AI by Zapier step, you can just write the worst prompt ever and it will fix it for you, which is so nice. So I'm going to write, based on this email I've gotten, determine if it's urgent or not. That's a terrible prompt, right? That's not good. I'll even paste it in the chat so that you can see what I wrote. But what it'll do is, first of all, it'll shame me a little. It'll say, hey, your prompt strength is poor. But there's a button right here where I can click improve prompt. I'm clicking it in front of you. And AI is going to rewrite the prompt so that AI can read it better. Magical stuff. So now, hey, look, it got a little better. It went from poor to weak. Based on the content of the provided email, please assess the urgency level and determine whether it requires immediate attention or can be addressed later. Ooh, and then it gave me some bonus stuff. Consider factors such as time-sensitive requests, deadlines mentioned, and overall tone. I like it. Now, how can we tell if this is working? Well, we'll click Generate a Preview. That lets us test it. So I'll click the purple button to generate a preview. I like the idea in the chat too. Was the CEO tagged? Yeah, you could absolutely have one of your inputs be like, who else is on the email? And then like give it the information like, if my CEO Wade is in the email, treat as urgent, right? I'm going to take that out right now, but that's a great idea of how to personalize this for you. Now you can see here, based on, and stick with me for just a second, in my test, the record it pulled in was an email here where the email says, hey, I'm supposed to be leading a webinar later, but I'm in the hospital. Can you grab someone else to cover? And that test record is what is being tested here. You can see it, the title of the email, serious illness, the body. And so when it's testing on that record you pulled in step 1. So for mine, it's saying the urgency level of this email was very high. It requires immediate attention due to a few factors. It's time sensitive, it's an emergency situation, and it's short notice. Given these factors, you need to address this as soon as possible. Fantastic. So it's looking good. It's giving me the information I want, but I want to do one more thing with it. I know in my brain that I only want this workflow to keep going and message me in Slack if it is urgent. So I'm going to have it give me some output fields, some specific output fields. Okay, you can generate these with me. We're going to make 2 of them. The first field that I want AI to give to me, I want it to give me, is this urgent? And it's going to be a true or false, which we call a Boolean. Okay, a Boolean is just a fancy name for true or false. And the description is, if this email is urgent, return true. If it's not, return false. And it's going to be required. So the field name is this urgent? It's going to give me either a true or a false. If it is urgent, that'll be a true. Is this urgent? True, it is. If it's not urgent, then it will give me a false. And I made sure it's required. I'm even going to take a screenshot and drop this in the chat so that if you're working at a different pace than me, if you're typing at a different speed, which is all good, you can see what we built. Okay, so that's one output field. I'm going to have it give one more. So the other field I want it to do is I want it to give me a summary of why this email is urgent. And we're just going to have it be a text field, and we're going to have the description. I'm not even going to fill it in. I'm going to leave it blank because I think the name kind of explains what we're asking for. So give us a summary of why the email is urgent. You're getting one more screenshot from me, and I'm going to save that input field. Or output field rather, sorry. So now we've set up this beautiful Zap step. It's taking in the title of our email and the body. We've told it what to do and what to give us back. We're asking it to give us a true or false about if this is urgent and a summary of why. So I'm going to click Generate Preview one more time, and we should see the output change here. So let's see. Okay, it worked. Is this urgent? It said true. Why is this urgent? Well, it's urgent because based on this email, Casey is seriously ill and requires someone to cover the webinar that's scheduled to start in just a few hours. This indicates an immediate need for support. Remember, folks, I'm seeing in the chat about my screen being really small. Remember that you can drag the sidebar to make it bigger so you can see. Also, hopefully my zooming in here helps a little bit. All right, so it's working. What are we going to do with this information? Well, I'm going to hit finish so I can back out here. When a new email comes in, then AI is analyzing it and figuring out if it's an emergency, if it's something super urgent. And I want it to escalate that to me in Slack if it is super urgent. So I need to have a step here that listens for that true or false. So if it is an emergency, the Zap keeps going. And if it's not an emergency, it stops. And we call that a filter. So I'm going to go ahead and click filter. So now we've got a third step in our workflow. And a filter is another way of saying only keep going if blank. Only keep going if blank. My filter is only keep going if AI said the email is urgent. So I'm going to choose that this should only continue, only keep going. If the AI is this urgent, which you saw me select here, is this urgent, if that is true. So there's this drop down. And by the way, this is one of my biggest tips if you're working with AI steps in a workflow, is to partner them with filters and paths, because you can have all sorts of filters. Only continue if the text contains this specific thing from your analysis, or the date is within this range. Super helpful. We just need this one. Boolean is true. So our Zap is only going to continue if the AI said the email is urgent. It is true that it's urgent. And I am going to once again take a screenshot. So if you're working on a smaller screen, this way you can zoom in nice and close. And how do we know if it's working? Well, you remember that AI said that email I got was really urgent, right? So we'll click continue and your test record will show whether this would have kept going in the Zap. So in my case, it turned green. It said, hey, your Zap would have continued because the test data you used was a really urgent email. So if you used an urgent email or a not urgent email, yours will either turn yellow or green, and that'll show you that your filter is working. Great. Just one more step, and then we're done. And that step is Slack, because that's where I want to be notified of really urgent emails. So I'm going to choose Slack here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose for it to send me a message. Now you choose for you, where do you want the message to go? So think for a minute about your personal way of working. This is another tip that I give every time I build with AI and automations with people. You need to think about the way you actually work. And if you work best in channels, or you have a team that triages emails together, right? You're going to want emails to go to a channel. If you want to DM yourself because you're used to working out of DMs, then you're going to want to use direct message. So think about your way of working here. I am going to use channel messages. Send a channel message. So my Slack action is send me a channel message. And this is just like with the email step, we've got to connect our account. So I'm choosing my Slack account. If you've never connected Slack to Zapier before, you'll need to push that purple button that says connect a new account. It'll only take you a second, but I can see my Slack account right here. So that's the one I will pick. Ooh, I love, oh my gosh, shout out to the people in the chat who are helping each other. Exactly right. If you got the yellow on your filter, if it said false and you're worried about it, that's actually good news. It just means that your AI step read your email, it wasn't urgent, your filter is working. It's just letting you know, hey, if we weren't just testing and building, this email wouldn't have triggered your whole Zap, but that's okay. Right now, we're just making sure our filter works. And there are ways that we'll get around that in just a second. I'll show you how we'll make sure this is like doing exactly what you want. Just stick with us for now and set up your Slack step. Great questions. I love the help that everyone's giving each other in the chat. Okay, so now you're going to get a couple more hot tips from me on this Slack step. When we hit continue, we've got all these pieces we get to set up just the way we want. I want mine to send messages to this channel, which for me is called test webinar. So I'm going to look for that. If you work in an environment with like a million Slack channels, there's a button down at the bottom called load more, and you can keep clicking it until all the channels are loaded. If you're sending a DM and you have a ton of people at your workspace, you can do the same thing. Keep loading results until you find the people that you want. I found my channel right here. So I'm going to pick my channel. And then what do I want this message text to say? Well, here's how I like to do it. And this is where you'll get some tips from me on formatting for Slack. I like to have myself be a part of this. So I'm going to say, hey, Emily, and then in bold, which means I'll use an asterisk, you've got an urgent email to respond. Ooh, spelling. Respond to. Spelling in front of a crowd is a sport. All right, now what do I want in Slack? And my goal here, because I don't use email, right? I stay in Slack. My goal is that everything I need is right there in Slack. That's like my user experience goal. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say email title, and I'm going to add it in because I've got it, right? I've got it right here in step 1. The subject line. Email title. I'll even make this nicer to read for me. I'll put some bolding. Email title. And then I'll say urgency. Let's say urgency criteria. Sure. And then I'll add in from step 2. You remember we made 2 output fields? We had the true false. And then we also had like summarize why. Why is this urgent? Let's throw that in there. I'm going to go into step 2 and grab that summary of why this email was urgent. And then I'll just add some nice formatting for myself. And you can add whatever you want in here. I like these emojis I made that have like make a line. And I'm going to say, consider responding ASAP by clicking this link. And then I'll just put in a link to the message. Now, if you're wondering, Emily, how do you know how to format this for Slack? I've got a cool tip for you. And that is, first, let me just grab the URL of the message. Okay. How do I know? Because there's a whole page of cheat sheets about this. I'm going to drop it in the chat. If you want to know, like, how do I make it look fancy? That's how. Now, there are a few more fields to set up before I show them to you. I'm just going to grab a screenshot of how I set this up so that if you are typing at a different speed than me, because it's not a race, you can take a look. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. And I'm going to choose, yeah, I want this set as a bot, but I want it to come from a bot called like urgent email helper. And let's have the icon be the email emoji. Do I want to include a link to the Zap? I'll turn that off. Do I want to auto expand links? I don't. And what that means is if you've ever been in like Slack, I think this is true in Teams too. If you auto expand links, it'll like take up a bunch of room showing you a preview. This is a personal preference, but I don't like that. So if there are ever links, I like to turn that off. And then I do want it to link to channels and usernames. I'm not going to schedule this. All right, everything else looks good. So the only things that I updated were the body of the message. And I love it, the recommendations about interactive buttons. I'm going to come back to that in a second too. What I'm going to do right now, though, is I'm going to hit continue. And I'm going to hit test. When I click test step, it's going to push that to Slack so I can see what it looks like. Look at this. Come with me to Slack. Here's what it looks like. It says, okay, urgent email helper. Hey, Emily, you've got an urgent email to respond to. The title was serious illness, need coverage. Here's why my AI step thought it was urgent. It said, Casey's seriously ill, requires coverage. This is an immediate need for support. And then it sent me the link. Consider responding ASAP by clicking this link. And that link will open the email, which I'm not going to do in front of you because I don't want to open my inbox in front of you. But if you set up your Zap and you saw that your email that you picked to test was not really urgent, how can you know what it would look like when you get an emergency email? Well, we're going to do that right now. Okay, first thing we're going to do, we're going to publish this Zap. So I'm going to name it. I'm going to say emergency email Slack triage. You can call it whatever you want. This is just for me to help me find it again. And I'm going to hit the purple button to publish. When I do that, my Zap is now on. It's ready to be awakened. And if you remember, the trigger for my Zap was getting a new email. That's going to wake my Zap up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send myself an email. You can do this too. Once your Zap is on, you can send yourself an email that is an emergency. Just send it to your email. And what should happen is that should trigger your Zap. I'll show you how to check on that. The email I just sent from my personal email, I just sent one that said, help, my server crashed and I've got the big meeting with the client. Can you help me? This is very urgent. So how do I know if this is working? Well, there's a button on the left here on your Zap called Zap Runs. And if you click on that and open it, it will show you every time your Zap woke up. And you can refresh it. You can refresh your page. So if you just sent yourself an email, it might not show up for a few seconds because it's got to wait until that email hits your inbox. But that's where you can see the emails that have wakened your Zap. You can also watch like every single step of a Zap run if you're really curious, like, why did something happen the way it did? And you can check how your filter is doing, which is also very neat. I'm just reviewing some of the stuff in the chat. Good stuff, everybody. These are great questions. And I love the way you're extending each other's learning. Okay, I'm going to refresh this again and see if we can get my Zap run to come through. I'm just checking out my emails too. When you are building, I mentioned that something that's really important is customizing, okay? Making the AI work for you or the way that you work. So something I want to hear from you is, we built a Zap right now that's fine. It works well. It's going to do what we wanted, right? Which is sending, oh, there we go. It processed my next email before I even saw the Zap run show up, which is another urgent email. This one I sent myself. The title was server crashed. And I said that, the big meeting is happening. We need help. And it said the urgency criteria is the server crash occurred shortly before an important client meeting. We need to take immediate action. Click this link. Okay, back to our Zap though. What I want to know is, what could make this better? and I want you to share it in the chat. Right now, when we get a new email, AI analyzes it. If it's urgent, it sends it to us in Slack so that we can take action. But what could make this even better? I already saw one in the chat. One is, we could have it label the email. Another one, send you a text. If you're somebody who's like, my phone is the fastest way to get a hold of me. Summarize the action items. Ooh, okay. Yes, draft a response. Love it. These are great. Keep them coming. What else can we do to make this even better? These are so good. Suggest a reply. Amazing. Think about your way of working. So even if it's not something that other people would find valuable, what is something that for you would be great? And by the way, if you joined a little bit late, oh, no worries about the all caps. Yeah, if you joined a little bit late, the recording will be available. So anything you missed, you'll be able to catch up on. Creating a task in your task manager or your ticketing system. Beautiful. Have it push an action item. Ooh, read the importance filter. You know how sometimes your emails come in starred as important? We could have that be a trigger. Have it delete emails that don't pass the test. I love it. These are so good. Integrate into my calendar to see when I can respond. Wow, these are so good. Let me show you one very small adjustment that I have made. This is for a Zap that I built previously. Whee! And it's going to look almost the same as what we built. But instead of a filter, I used paths. So when that new email came in, first AI analyzed if it was urgent. And then if it was urgent, send me a Slack DM. And if it was not urgent, but it was an invitation to speak at a conference, which is one of my favorite things ever. I love getting to speak with customers. Invitation to speak. Then it would send me a different kind of message with like a proposed response. And so you can customize your Zap however you want. You could add in multiple AI steps, right? I love your idea of having it draft a message back. If I wanted to do that, I could add in, please don't feel like you have to do this with me. I know I'm doing this fast, but I could add in another AI step where it reads the email and then it writes a suggested reply as me. And I could give it some basics about like how I sound in email, what it sounds like to be me. So those are fantastic ideas. You're all thinking right along the correct lines of like how to personalize your AI automations to do the most important work for you. What I want to know from you in the chat is, we did a very basic build today, right? It was just listening for emails that are urgent and then giving us a heads up. Basics are really important. That's why we built it. But they can also inspire us to build something bigger. And I want to know, what are you going to build next? Tell us in the chat. Could be something simple, could be something really complex. And you remember when we started and we opened Zapier and there was that box, Copilot, right on the homepage. And I was like, I'm so sad to tell you, you don't get to use it today. You get bonus points if you describe what you want to build next in the chat, and then you paste that exact same explanation into Copilot to see it build it. I'm so excited to see what it has you build. And while you're doing that, I also want to share, right before we switch to a few Q&As, if you are serious about putting AI to work for you, maybe you're not sure where to start or what the right next step is, that is totally okay. We offer 30-minute working sessions with our team. And that's a chance to bring your big AI questions, whether that's like a governance question or tool sprawl or internal adoption or executive alignment, and pressure test it with the people who are deep in this work every single day. We work with companies just like yours, and will help you assess where you are, clarify what's realistic, and outline a practical path forward. So if that would be helpful to you, please feel free to grab time. Bryce shared the link. We are genuinely thrilled to help you think through that. And now let's knock out a few Q&As. I left 5 minutes so that Bryce can join me here and ask a few of those questions that you all upvoted. Bryce, let me stop screen sharing.
Amazing. Emily, thank you so much. You're the teacher I want for every subject. If we had audio, I'd say everyone give her a round of applause because that was so great. And I love following along, and I know Zapier. So thank you again. Okay, everyone. Thank you for all the great questions. I answered a lot of them already, but there were a few, Emily, that I think would be worth chatting through. So there is one from, let's see if I can get this on the screen. There we go. Start answering live. Okay. So Steve asks sort of a very specific question about working with those filters. So like when you're working with the Boolean and you have a yes, no option, what's the easiest way to switch between different tests to see one that's true and one that's false? Like, what does that look like?
Steve, what a great question. I just said, like, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and it was a lie. Come with me. Okay, so this is such a good question because something a lot of people don't realize is right in your tests. So if I'm in my Zap and I go to that test that we grabbed, right? My test, oh, if it will load for me, this was a terrible time for that to happen. Let me refresh. There we go. All right. So I've got this test here, and I want to know how my filter's doing. I have a few options. Down at the bottom, easy to miss, there's an edit button. And you can actually just edit the information in your test record. So like, let's say this email was not urgent at all. It was so unimportant. I could just write in, I'm having a big emergency. And then for the rest of using this record, like for AI analyzing it, for all the rest of the steps, it will treat that data that you manually put in there like it's part of that record. And another way that you could do it, but this one I don't recommend as much because you'll have to like go back and forth with like messing up your AI step and then undoing it. The other thing you could do is you could do for your output field, you could just write no matter what, return true. And then use that to test the next couple of steps and then go back and change it. I don't recommend that. I think that doing that is going to cause you, like if you ever forgot, then later you're like, why isn't this working? So I wouldn't do it that way, but you could.
Cool. Yeah, editing a trigger record is a unknown little hot tip. Yeah. So give it a shot. Okay, we got 2 minutes. There's another question I can throw on the screen as well from Karen. And Karen's just mentioning that, a lot of times with AI agents, maybe in other workshops, she's built stuff, or with AI even, that things sort of go wrong after changing the prompt. Sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't. And so just what's your process for like training the AI to ensure it's learning what is wrong and what is right?
Yeah, that is such a good question. I used a really short prompt in this example to save us all time. But one of the biggest tips I have is to put examples in your prompt. So for today's build, we looked at an email and we were like, just decide if it's urgent. I have one idea of what's urgent. Bryce's brain is different than mine. He'll have a different one. You'll have a different one, right? So we each have these very different ideas. So it's really important to grab like the last 4 emails that you thought were urgent, give them to AI in the prompt and say like, here are 4 examples. This one was urgent because blank, give it that information. So it's not making a guess. That's one way to make it way more predictable. And the other thing I would suggest, I've seen a ton of success with having it evaluate its confidence and say, like, decide from 0 to 100% how confident you are this is urgent. And then for your filter step, you could say only continue if the number is higher than 80, right? And then it's like, yeah, it's urgent, but I'm 75% confident you're not going to get notified.
Nice, smart. Yeah, adding those examples, super smart, and it's going to help AI. Okay, Emily, we're right up at time. That was perfect, amazing. So any last final words for everyone before we end it today?
Yes, my captive audience. Yes. Oh my gosh. There is nothing that makes me more emotional than seeing what you built. So if you build something, please share it with me. You can post it on LinkedIn. You can tag me or tag Zapier. I just want to see it. I get so excited seeing people feel capable and confident. So please try building. I can't wait to see what you do. And thank you for spending time with us here today.
Awesome. Thanks, Emily. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good rest of the day.